Hello and welcome to special coverage of the Pacific Classic from In the Money Media. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornital, back with you. Very excited to be joined by a woman whose opinion I always respect when it comes to racing, but never more so than here at Del Mar, where she spends the summer. I speak of TV's Michelle Yu. I usually make it TV's Matt Bernier. We still have him on from time to time. Today, you're TV's Michelle Yu. Michelle, what's going on?
I don't know. I do have a question, though, Pete. I would love to know about the show Taming of the Yu.
What is Taming of the Yu?
What is Taming of the Yu?
Where did you come up with this?
I heard that you and Frank Katona were doing a show, and you talked about the Taming of the Yu.
We must have just been spitballing and come up with an idea for a vehicle for you.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the specifics of it were, and God help the human being that does try to tame you, because it's not going to redound to their benefit. Let's put it that way.
I was sure that it had something to do with just me being mean to you guys. I thought it was hilarious.
That's great.
But I'm pretty sure Katona gave you all the credit for coming up with that line.
You know how this is when you're on air sometimes, especially when you're on air and you have no time constraint, or even worse, sometimes you have time to fill. And for me, my brain goes somewhere else, and I could talk for an hour and be coherent, at least according to the people listening. But then afterwards, you could say, so what did you talk about on the show today? And I'd say, I have no earthly idea. I think the Taming of the Yu must be in that category. So we were supposed to be, speaking of the untamable, we were supposed to be joined by a third guest. We even have his handsome mug on our thumbnail. But we have been dissed and dismissed, not ghosted, because at least he had the courtesy to send a text to tell us he wasn't showing up.
Wait, your text. I still have not even gotten a text from him.
So you got ghosted. At least he had the courtesy of letting me know that Billy Koch will not be joining us. Clearly, some of his fancy friends wanted to hang out or something, and we're short shrift.
I'm not as funny without Billy, which is really sad. And
what has been going on?
I have to be doubly mean to you.
Oh, that's fine. I'm used to it. You know me. I love the abuse. So you and my accountant are the people in my life I let abuse me. So it works out. It works out well. But you do host the Owner's Box with Billy. You see those episodes here on the In the Money Media YouTube channel, to which we encourage people should subscribe. But you've had some really cool content lately. Give folks an idea of what you've had going on. I want those that are unfamiliar with the product to get familiar with the product.
Yeah. So a couple weeks back, before they announced even that she was going to be running in the Travers, we did have Kenny McPeak on, and he pretty much told us he was going to run before he announced it. He actually took us out to the barn, carried his laptop out to the barn, and we got to see Torpedo Anna in the barn. There were people there. We got to see Sonny, of course, and we got to hear literally his entire process of how he buys horses. So that was awesome. We've had Jason Worth on. So he was super cool and has some great ideas up and coming for how he wants to get more people involved in racing. And then we had the guy that owns Next on, and he was really interesting. Billy tried to push really hard to get him in the Pacific Classic, but I guess it didn't happen. They're going to stick with their original plan and just scoop up another marathon race. And this last week we had Craig Data, who used to be the head honcho behind Del Mar Marketing, but now he's always been an owner, but now he's in the thick of it. And he has another website, and the website is Sports Injuries. So if you're doing fantasy football, he tells you what the injury is, how long it should last, and how that's going to impact your draft and whatnot, which I actually had no idea he had that. And it's fascinating. And so we had a whole draft talk to start off our show. So we went completely off the rails this week. But it's fun, and we try to keep it really interesting.
You never know where the conversation will go on any of these shows with In the Money Media.
Songs too.
Always important. Always important. Let's dive into this race, Michelle. We'll go through horse by horse, couple lines on each one of these runners, maybe a little more than a couple lines, and we'll give a selection at the end if that works for you. Starting with a horse whose name I pronounce differently than everyone else in the world. I can't resist but call him Il Miracolo, but I guess most people say Il Miracolo. And this horse comes to us off a second place finish at the grade 3 level at Iceland, a day when I thought he might have been a little bit against the track profile. Do you see him as a serious contender in this spot?
I don't really. I hate to say. I mean, it was nice that they brought him out here to give it a try. Obviously, with the Breeders' Cup being out here, it's a nice opportunity to take a whirl over the surface. But he's just never been to me the kind of horse that's going to be a top level contender, right? Picks up pieces here and there. But anytime he's faced with really good company, he's found himself to be lacking. Even running behind Substansador last time, I don't know where Substansador was finishing here. And I've been a Substansador fan, but he's just hasn't kind of like crossed that threshold to be quite the caliber we were hoping he was going to be. You got to let the fact that Money Mike Smith gets on, because I feel like all Mike Smith has done the last couple of weeks is win stakes races. So, you got that going for you, but he does draw the rail here. And he's like that kind of horse that he finds himself forwardly placed when he's in lesser competition. I think it's just because, but if there's some serious speed, and there is some serious speed, I don't think he's going to be on the lead. And I don't know how much closing he necessarily wants to do.
I think that's all very fair. On pace figures, you might think full Serrano, who we'll get to in a minute, would be on the lead with Il Miracolo chasing. Let's talk about number 2. There Goes Harvard. This one was cross-entered, but breaking news from the Del Mar press box where I sit right now, will be going in the classic.
Is that where you are? I was wondering where you were.
You usually like to make fun of my backdrop. When you commented that one of my office setups looked like I was on the toilet, I had to redesign the whole thing, and I still haven't gotten over it, Michelle.
No, it looked like you were in a closet this time, but I knew it wasn't a closet because it has like a fancy door, and closets you just have like swinging doors. But I was seriously wondering, and I was going to ask, but then you like zoomed in, so I couldn't see like all the photos again. I'm like, okay, definitely racing, but like, are you in a closet? I mean, look at. It's like a wall here and a wall here. Like, your room is very little.
There's 2 radio rooms in the Del Mar press box from back in the day when they would do, I think, live radio results. The second at Del Mar is just finished, and, Michelle finishes ahead of Billy with PTF back in third, like that kind of thing. And so they obviously, to not disturb the working press, they put the walls around. And well, there's only a handful of people out there. I'm very self-conscious about how loudly I speak, so I decided to come into the closet to do the.
Do you have a window?
There is a window, but there's no air through the window. So it has gotten 5 degrees warmer since I came in here, and that number is only going to go in the wrong direction. So we should probably get back to There Goes Harvard. There'll be some dotting of the forehead. This horse been plying his trade on turf. 3rd start off the layoff now, getting back to dirt. He is a horse that's won a Grade 1 before, Santa Anita Gold Cup winner. Do you think he can replicate that form against this group?
No. I mean, okay. Look, like this horse, like I said, won the Gold Cup. He actually beat a pretty decent field that day, although I don't think Defunded was necessarily a 1.25 mile horse. I thought it was still a decent group he beat in that compact field of 5. That was obviously a career high for him. Subsequently, he has just not even sniffed anybody, and that is dirt and turf. I mean, you have to go back to that was 2022 in May for his Gold Cup win. He does come up in here for new connections. So he was purchased by Gary Barber and Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners. Not only did they purchase him and cross-enter him, but they also late nominated him to this race. So they must be thinking that he's doing really well. I did watch him work a couple weeks back, and he worked fine, but I mean, nothing to write home about. He's never been like the flashiest of workhorse. He kind of runs like a giraffe with his head way up in the air. So he would be the horse that, like, I guess if he won, you'd be like, oh well, okay, but also like, I don't know. I'm not gonna play him.
You're not feeling him. I could tell you're not feeling him.
Barber, I'm sure, is playing hand over fist, right? I mean, so
they're definitely taking a shot here, and this could be a horse that could get the right kind of trip if they really burn up on the front end. That's why I might leave him in for a penny in some different types of combinations. There are enough angles here. I'm enough of a Michael McCarthy fanboy that, that kind of inside out trip, if the race is falling apart, I can see it if I squint, but hard, not a confident A level type or anything, but a horse I could see. Yeah.
Like, I think he did his better running a little bit closer to the pace, and there's going to be pace in here. But
yeah.
if Senior Buscador isn't closing in, in a sprint race, right? Like, I mean, how much hope do we have for everybody else? I will give him that. Granted, I think that the Gold Cup that he won was probably tougher than the majority of the horses in this race, right? Like he could pick up a piece in here, but that's it for me.
Let's move on to another very speedy runner, one who stretched out effectively to the mile and a 16th in the San Diego last time, talking about a horse that's not just a hunch play for Ghostbusters fans. Dr. Venkman trying to stretch that speed out to the mile and a quarter. Do you think, first and foremost, before you evaluate him in this race, what do you think about him from what you've seen just in terms of the distance? Is he a horse that you think will be able to show his best form going this far?
I mean, he certainly showed last time he was going to be capable of a little bit more than maybe we gave him credit for. He was obviously very impressive, like to begin his career, and he beat a good allowance field in his second career start. So he showed his class. Then he kind of got, waylaid a little bit. I don't know if that was just he needed to kind of grow up because he had that big break in there or whatever it was. But last time out, he still wasn't perfect. Like he didn't run a perfect race and he was still a handy winner. I mean, if he handles the stretch out, he's the horse with the most upside, right? He's never been out of the exacta. He's super lightly raced. On paper, it looks like he can be relatively versatile and he should sit a good trip. Fresu's been riding really well. Glatt's winning at 20%. I mean, to me, this is the horse with upside. If you want like the fresh face, this has to be your guy right here.
I hear where you're going. So
However,
you
the
think,
price though, I mean, like,
what do you think he'll be?
I mean, I would just hope because Adare Manor is going to take a ton of money, right? If you're going to play him, you want like 5-1, but I think he's like, what is he on the morning line? Like 5-2?
Gosh, I should really have that. I'm
Something
looking at
like
a set of
that.
PPs.
But like, I mean, I just feel like, I don't know, like I want almost a better price on him because he's like unproven. You know what I mean?
Course. I mean, unproven in so many ways. I mean,
Yeah.
I worry about how the pace is going to shape out for him when he's having to meet all these extra challenges.
Right.
That's
Right.
my main concern, and I'll dig and see what we ended up getting for the morning line here as the show goes on.
Yeah,
But
I
in
don't
the
have them
meantime,
yet.
we
My
should move.
PPs are old, so I don't have a morning line.
Me too, which is embarrassing, but I'll get that corrected. It's out there. I was at the darn draw, so I should remember, but that was a
Oh,
whole
did you
day
go to the
ago.
draw party?
So I went to the draw party. It was very fun.
Was it?
Brigantine.
Oh, was that
Yeah, I
where it
was
was?
surprised you weren't
I had
there.
to come up because my kids started school, so I'm back up at home.
Oh wow, I didn't realize you were back already. Gosh, all right. Well, that's a legitimate excuse at least. Let's talk about the other Bob Baffert runner in this race. Michelle Kazushi Kimura will be riding Reincarnate for the silver-haired one. There's that old saw around horse racing that it's always the uncoupled, the longer of the uncoupled Bafferts you want. I've done the statistical dive on that. It's not actually true. But what kind of a chance do you give Reincarnate in this race?
Okay. Now I'm gonna say that I think that the wires got crossed right there because it's the longer price Peter Miller you always want. It's always the shorter price Baffert. Okay, like unless we're talking about first time starters, if we're in the stakes races, people know the good Baffert. They only mess up when it's like the first time starters or the maidens, but it's definitely the longer shot Peter Miller always wins. So I am not a huge Reincarnate fan. He was just kind of okay to begin with, started his career on grass. He did get that Los Al Derby win, but subsequently he's just been okay, right? His Gold Cup this year, that was kind of like for me his chance to shine, and he couldn't hold on over Mr. Fisk, who's kind of been hit or miss as well. And then he got absolutely annihilated last time out in the Cougar. And I thought Midnight Mammoth was actually going to enter the Pacific Classic, and they opted not to. He does get a turn back in distance, so maybe that works out for him. But to me, he's just been okay on the works recently, and he's an okay workhorse, like to begin with. But like I haven't seen anything from him to like change my mind about him. He's kind of like if the race just falls into his lap, he's like, oh, okay, I'll win this. But like to me, he never looks like he's got that killer instinct, right? Like, I'm gonna win the race. Like he's just like, oh. And if you see him in like person, that's like how he's this big, beautiful gray with like these big splotchy butts, and he just like kind of toodles around out there. I don't know. For me, I'm the other Baffert the whole way.
Okay, you mean the not other Baffert in this
Yeah, the not
case?
other Baffert. The solid Baffert. The one and the 1A, right? The one Baffert.
All right, I did find this line here on the Del Mar website.
Okay.
Il Miracolo 8s. There goes Harvard 20s. Dr. Venkman 5-2. Yeah, if that guess is right, that's probably too short for me.
Too short for him,
21
right?
Reincarnate. Yeah.
I mean, if
I
you
don't
got
hate
5-1, you'd feel like, okay, I can try this. But like 5-2, that's like, I don't know, like so much.
It's too skinny for me into the teeth of some faster animals. 20-1 Reincarnate surprises me a little bit. I don't think that number will come to fruition, but it's interesting and a horse that, all of a sudden I start thinking about for underneath just because of the price. But my fear with Reincarnate is based on where he usually is in his races. If he's that far off the early pace, he's going too fast and is not going to be able to finish. And that's trouble, obviously. So we'll see how they decide to play their cards with that one. Number 5 in this year's Pacific Classic is Katona, installed at 8-1 on the morning line. How do you evaluate this one's chances, Michelle?
He's super hard to evaluate, right? Because I mean, he's a horse that had to drop to 40 to break his maiden, and he did it off like a 1.5 year layoff. And then he came back and he's run well against allowance and starter horses. And then he strung together 2 wins, but then he got sidelined for another year. So his return off a year layoff was in the San Diego when he finished behind Dr. Venkman, who was better that day. But I mean, how much more forward can this horse go? This is second off the break for him. He's obviously, a better horse than he was when he was running for $40,000. And his last 2 races together, even though they were separated by a year, have both been showing that he's kind of moving with that right trajectory. If this horse moves forward at all and you like Dr. Venkman, I don't know how you don't play this horse because he's going to be a better price.
I think that's fair. I mean, just based on a basic form analysis, second off the layoff makes me think he can improve, but gosh, 20-1 off that break makes me think maybe that was the day you wanted to back him, and maybe I'm just looking at form lines from other races. That sound reasonable?
You did, right? But like, if you didn't, like, if you like Dr. Venkman and you think this horse improves and you get a better price, you're like, oh, maybe I should go here. Pedigree wise, I don't necessarily see 1.25 miles screaming out at me for this horse, which is like why I would prefer Venkman over him. But if you're looking for just a price, like, this is going to be the one.
Let's talk about number 6, Full Serrano. As mentioned before, my idea of the early pace setter in this race, a horse that has won in his native Argentina, going the 1.25 miles. Looked pretty darn good in that allowance race prep for this back on August 3rd. You think there's any chance this horse can take him wire to wire at this class level? Certainly going to have to get a lot faster in terms of final times.
I mean, yeah, but he blazed away out there earlier on, right? And he was coming off a layoff and it was kind of a fresh face here. So, and he broke from the rail. So his hand was a little bit forced that day. Like he had to kind of full send. I think watching him work subsequently, he has looked really good. He worked 59 and change, and then he came back and worked 111 for 6 furlongs. And I will say, I watched that work and it kind of looked like, Reylu was maybe getting like a feel for him, like how good is this horse that I'm working, right? And so he was like trucking right along. I will say that his gallop out was maybe not exactly what you'd want to see, but he baked right along for a good portion of that. And I just think that he's a big, good looking, strong horse. I think he's got some upside if you can get an okay price. If you don't want to take Adare Manor, this is the most likely winner, right? Sadler's been winning this race like crazy. I mean, Baffert still has more wins, but Sadler's won 4 of the last 6 years. And he's had some really good horses, including Flightline winning it. And this is kind of a question mark horse, but he's won it with question mark horses before when you go back a couple of years prior. So I think this horse is really interesting. I'm going to play him kind of like both ways with Adare Manor. And if he's, I don't know, like if he's a decent price, if he's, 4 or 5-1, I'm going to play him across the board.
5 on the morning line. You were mentioning before that you feel like the track has continued to be pretty kind to speed. That's the kind of thing that makes me inclined to take a little shot with this horse. And I like the point you made about not necessarily some runoff in the morning,
Mhm.
The fact that the horse went so fast last time might have been a function of circumstance. Might be able to set
Yeah.
more measured fractions. I mean, we'll get to our official picks at the end, but I'm keeping this one on the radar. But give
Look,
give
if
a
I have
comment
to
about
have
the
a
way the track's
negative,
been
though,
playing.
I do think it is a negative, and maybe it's just because they weren't sure that Berrios did ride full Serrano in that US unveiling, and he winds up on There Goes Harvard. So maybe it was the fact that full Serrano wasn't committed to this race, and Hector said, "Okay, well, I'll ride, There Goes Harvard," or I don't know what the whole scenario was for that, but the fact that Berrios isn't on anymore, I'm like, ugh, that
Notable,
that
but I think you're right. There could be all kinds of weird. You know how the jockey
yeah.
musical chairs works. Obviously,
Mhm.
there could be a story there. It's probably worth finding out. People, Michelle, send some texts, get us some answers, text some
Send some
agents,
text.
figure out why this
You know
happened.
what? If I was working, I would be, but I'm not. So I'm just sitting here at home watching Quidditch.
We'll keep our we'll keep our ear to the ground on that one. Quidditch, did you say? Is that even a real thing?
Nah, well, okay, yes and no, right? They play there is like a Quidditch league in LA, but they like
Do you
literally just
play?
run on. No, I don't, but they run on their feet on broomsticks. Like they literally have broomsticks and they're running and they're playing Quidditch.
Is this? I mean, is this like some crazy hipster thing, or are we talking about
Harry
actual
Potter.
children? Well, no. But I mean, like,
Oh,
who's
you mean
actually
who
playing it?
plays? No, it's all adults, Pete. Come on, don't be silly. Kids
Okay.
don't like Harry Potter. It's all adults.
Totally ridiculous. You never know where these conversations are going to go. Let's talk about this favorite, Michelle. Adare Manor, fresh off the heels of, while not a victory in anything but what it says on the chart for Torpedo Anna last weekend in the Travers. We now see Adare Manor coming here at 9-5, challenging the boys. Can she go one better than Torpedo Anna and win?
I think that if they're going to try it, this is a great field for her to try it against. You don't end up with any, crazy great world beaters in here. So I think that she can. I think that she can definitely do her best. Right? She has just been flourishing lately. I thought that her Clement Hirsch was really impressive because to me, she was always a need the lead type of filly to do her best running. And in that race, she really showed something different. It's kind of weird for a little bit older horse with some good races under her belt to kind of show a new dimension. But I loved her Clement Hirsch and the way she just kind of like sucked all those horses in. It was like, and if you're looking for a form line, I mean, Scylla came back to run pretty well at Saratoga last weekend. Flying Connection's been right there knocking on the door all the time. The fourth place finisher was last year's 3-year-old champion, and she's picked up a lot of checks along the way. So it's not like she was beaten up on junk, but and some of those fillies would be competitive with, a boy or two in here at least. So she gets the outside draw, which I think is going to be handy for her if full Serrano goes. She showed me last time she can sit right off of him, right? And for some reason, if full Serrano just tries to walk the dog, she's going to go right there and just breathe down his neck and not let him get too far out. The 1.25 miles is certainly the question. They've been working her different, I'll say. I guess you can say. When I watched her last couple of works, there was literally a work that she went 102, and the ride. I mean, she was like throwing her head up in the beginning, like all the way to the turn. She was like, "Come on, let me run," and they're like, and just trying to like get her to go. And I mean, she could have gone 3 times around at the particular speed that she was going at. And then next time they literally work a little quicker, but still she wanted to do more. I mean, she doesn't look empty or tired at the end of her works. Even when they're fighting with her, she still has more left over. And I think people that watch a lot of races know if you fight with a horse, they get tired from the fight and not from anything else. And I mean,
Course.
she's fighting half of this work and she's still charging at the end. So I don't think
Interesting.
fitness is going to be an issue. I think that she's honestly a deserving favorite in here because she's supremely accomplished. She likes Del Mar. She has the right running style. And she's just a classy mare. And you throw in the fact that Baffert trains her and it almost makes her like a no-brainer in there, right? So she's going to be no price, which is why I say maybe bet full Serrano across the board in case he can upset her. But like she's the most logical winner.
We'll return to her at the end of this conversation, obviously, but I do just want to make one more point to the idea that she will get the 1.25 miles is the fact that you look at her pace lines on Timeform US, she's always going faster at the end. I mean, she just, what the Brits would say, shapes like one that's going to get the added ground. And I really like your comments on the works.
What's shapes that? Like one? That's what they say.
Shapes like a runner will get the,
okay,
looks like.
I'm going to use that. I have another podcast coming up. Shapes like one.
Who will get the distance? Yes, you can't just say
Okay.
shape. You got to put in the get the distance bit. All right,
Well,
let's
I have
move
to
on
add an
to.
English accent to it, though.
Now that I want to hear.
No,
Number
my
8
accents
is
are
not.
horrible.
We got to get you a dialect coach. Let's talk about none above the law. 15-1 here on the morning line. Is this one on form and figures on the outside looking in, or can you see a case? Can you make a case for this 6-year-old?
He's super far on the outside. I think. Pete, I think he's sitting in the grandstand eating a hot dog, and he's like, "Oh, there's a race. I guess I can enter it." I mean, this is going to be a very tall task for him. If I'm going to give him one like positive in his corner, is he has beat open company before, and it was at Del Mar. It was on the grass. He won the Del Mar Derby like 25 years ago. But overall, I mean, he's not beating Calbreds, and you want him to step into like. Even if this is not the greatest group of older horses, there are one or two very accomplished horses in here. And I just don't see him tangling with them. He's never been the mile and a quarter. But that, he's a Calbred, so he does dirt, turf, long, short, but he's just never been this particular distance.
Yeah.
And just
Probably outmanned and outgunned.
It's going to be hard, right? Because look, Adare Manor and Full Serrano are not necessarily coming back to him. So now he's going to be behind. Right. They're going to be going relatively quick. He's going to be going far. And when he's going to try and make up some ground, they're not coming back for him to reel them in. He's going to have to catch them. And I just don't know if that's possible.
Minor award would be the ceiling with a very cold ride and some tired horses to pass. So that's the way I see it. We're very similar there. Number 9 is Mixto or Mixto, 12-1 on the morning line. What do you think of this one?
I mean, he's a non-winner of 2 life. He
could you find a harder spot for this horse?
Well, to be fair, he has picked up a couple checks in some of the grade 2s around here. So he has earned his right to run in this race, right? But I mean, to me, running third would be like a let's go celebrate and eat dinner at Tractons.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. Let's go to the top of the ticket here and go back to the what I guess really is the key question with Adare Manor. 9-5 on the morning line would be a clear bet, but isn't she going to be more like 6-5 or even money?
I think she's going to be evens.
Yeah.
And at that point, that's what I'm like, you gotta play something else, even though you think that she's going to be the one. Like, I don't know.
What about the exacta? Full Serrano, they run just very efficiently. Mm-hmm. They turn it into a match. They don't let anybody else get involved. May the best horse win. You play it each way. Maybe you have a few bucks on Serrano, like you said, in case things go awry with not awry, but you know what I mean, because the filly doesn't fire. And then you have an exacta with the two of them. I think that might not be a bad way to play this race.
My plan is to play that, and if Dr. Venkman looks like he's going to be above 5-1, chuck him in the mix just to try to in case he picks up a piece there.
I love it. Great stuff, Michelle. Love the way you look at these races, the blend of paper handicapping, physical handicapping, the work that you put in. You didn't make fun of me that much this show, though. The viewers are going to be a little disappointed.
Can I give you my single on the whole card, though?
Of course. Yeah. Tell me some other thoughts.
My single is going to be Conclude. If you have not, can I take over your thing? Can we watch his work?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, hold on here. I'm going to pull up his work.
We're talking about race 11, the Del Mar Mile, just so we can ground people, the nightcap of the day. Tell us what you like about Conclude.
Okay, so I have been watching Conclude. Well, obviously his form speaks for itself, right? He watches races, whatever. This work is just, I have been watching him work every single week, and every single week I can see him getting better and better and better. And I just want to share this work with you right here. So this is,
these people, we're not going to get in trouble, are we, for showing this?
No, this is XBTV. It's free. Just go sign up with your email and you can watch all these works. Okay. So
there you go. That's good. We give them the plug. Now they won't bug us.
In the back. Okay.
Okay.
And like I said, I've watched him work every single week. I swear, 4 weeks ago, he was like, oh, he looks good. This horse has been ramping up where he looks unreal good right now. He looks super content at this particular point. These two
moving very well without being asked, right? I mean, just picking up.
Just picking up. But look at Berrios is not moving on him. He just wants to
double
be up
handful.
There, right? Okay. Yep. Now look at. He's sitting right here behind. Watch him swing outside. This is Almendares. He's running in the stake also. I don't actually know who Uncle Happy is. But look at Berrios is not even going by. I mean, he's not moving on him, and he's just blowing. Look at they're under a drive. Jess is riding Almendares. Look at him, and look at him past the wire.
Crazy.
Like he drops his hands right here, and look at him go, and he's still so wide. I mean, a minute and change work around the dogs. Come on, that is insane, insane.
Very impressive.
100% single on my ticket.
Who's the main danger, or you really don't even see
no
it?
danger.
You're just.
There's no one is going to beat Conclude. Like if he falls on his face out of the starting gate, I guess that would suck, and it could happen. But I just cannot see a horse being as good. I guess caliber level de jour is always going to be certainly right there because he's a good hardcore competitor, right? And he likes to do really well. But to me, there just hasn't. He's a hard trier. To me, there hasn't been a horse working as good as Conclude. And he's coming.
That was awesome.
He's coming in with some kind of crappy races, so like there's a chance you get a decent price on him.
Yeah. Any other on the card that you want to mention?
No, that was it. I only stepped outside my box.
Okay, I like it. And you can play some doubles too. Keep in mind, we can play some doubles to the Pack Classic and the Del Mar Mile as well. We've got so much other stuff coming up on the In the Money Media YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our YouTube exclusive content, including the Owner's Box with Michelle and our friend Billy, who decided not to show up today. But I think we made it work. Michelle, for Michelle Yu, I'm Peter Thomas Fornatel. And our friends at Del Mar, we should thank them for sponsoring this video. We'll be back very soon. May you win all your photos.